Good morning, and welcome to How to Write Your Novel Part 3. We're in the tail end of the book. You're going to see two segments that show early draft, and then later, after 5 more days of work, you'll see how much I got done and how much more fleshed out it is. Spoilers, we got to the return, so I am currently writing the Take and Pay as I'm recording this. Today is Thursday, June 5th. So I am making great progress on the novel, but man, it has taken way more time, as you'll hear kind of when you see me write out the chapters. It just took a lot more time to research stuff than I ever would have thought to line things up. Creating ancient mysteries, you have to draw upon a grain of truth, which means you have to absolutely know what you're talking about, what's where different things lead, how you would get there in the real world, so you can show that journey on the page. Going to the pyramids, how do you actually get there? And where do you stay? And what are the hotels like? And what other sites are there around the Giza Plateau? And what restaurants are there? So there's a lot of research that went into this, and it was really fun. I mean, I don't regret it. It just means that the book took longer to write than I thought that it would, which is good because what this has taught me is instead of going with a more aggressive release schedule and trying to get these out, I was going to do one every 2 weeks for a while once I started the release. I'll probably do one every month, so just a book a month, which I've done in the past, because I need the additional time to do the research, to get things ready to go, and to make sure that everything kind of lines up with the new mythology I'm creating in the series, because that draws heavily on the real world, so that's good because it's all stuff that I know, but I want to make sure what I've codified on the page doesn't change inadvertently in later books. We will jump into segment number 1. You'll see the first look at how the book was going kind of in week 1, that was last week, and then you'll see sort of what I accomplished this week. So I did get a lot done. I'm proud of past Chris. Good job, Chris. But I would like to be finished with the first draft by now, and I'm not. I do have a lot of other work-related stuff that's been going on. Advertising, by the way, on a totally separate note, has been going phenomenally well. I have never had so much success advertising. I know that's kind of a loaded topic to bring up, but Amazon ads are being good to me right now, and I'm very happy about that. So if you have questions about writing your novel, please ask that in the comments after you've seen the next couple of segments, and let me know if you want a follow-up video. I'm assuming I'm doing one more of these. We can definitely do that and talk about what you want to see me discuss. And then the last thing I want to do before jumping into the footage itself is a lot of people asked for me to talk about how plot branching manifested in this book, and I couldn't really do it until the book was mostly written, because now I know which directions I've pondered and which directions I actually ended up taking. And one of my favorite changes is a villain that I had at the beginning of the book named Nizreen. She's just not powerful enough. She's not cool enough, and she can't last through the entire story. And I was struggling to get her to, like, how do I have, like, this back and forth with the hero through, like, 2/3 of the book? And eventually I realized you just gotta have a different villain. And I added a much higher up, stronger villain that comes in, and that's our return, where we have to deal with this legendary assassin who is several centuries old, and we don't know how or why, but we just know that he's really strong. And it gives me the adequate tension that I'm looking for. That came about through plot branching. I had to do a lot of what ifs, and I invented 4 or 5 different villains. And then this was the one that I settled on. I'm like, yeah, that's the one that I want to use in this setting, especially if I happen to survive the book. He can be a really good recurring long-term nemesis for the series. I like that. So that came about directly from plot branching. I also had to do a lot of what if. What happens when Mitch gets to the halls of Amenti? What actually happens? What are the halls of Amenti? And I sat down and I wrote out like 5 or 6 different versions in my head of like, this is kind of what it is. I stood on the treadmill at the gym for a lot. I pondered and pondered as I was working out. And what I finally came to was, okay, I'm just going to go with what the tablets say. So if you've read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, granted, we're somewhat liberal in translation, and details matter a lot. So when we say like from the stars, our natural inclination is to think, oh, they're aliens. But that's not necessarily what the tablets were saying. There's a little bit of ambiguity there, but I followed the tablets as literally as I could for what he finds in the halls of Amenti, and I represented basically what you see on the tablets of exactly what Thoth describes. A bit of a spoiler, I mean, if you read the tablets, you'll know anyway, but Thoth is our POV character, if you will, on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and what he's saying is, I come from an ancient culture. I was brought to the halls of Amenti. There's 32 beings of light there. They came down from the stars, and they came down to aid humanity. And what they do is they sit in these thrones in this place they built called the halls of Amenti, and their consciousnesses roam out into the world and are born into new people, and they try to change the world and slowly nudge humanity towards the path of light and good. And that's sort of their whole goal. And so Thoth talks at length about what they like and harmony and peace. And it's all the stuff that we've heard in a billion different religions, all wonderful stuff, which I personally try to practice. It's very Zen Buddhism. And I think that's interesting. Well, I took that and I ran with it, and I've got my 32 sages. I'm just bringing that to life on the page. And it was tremendous fun writing the mythology. And I won't spoil what I've done with the what's inside the halls and what happens to a soul when it is judged, because that's what happens to Thoth. Thoth is brought before these 32 judges, and these judges say he can be freed from the bounds of life and death like they are. He can become truly immortal, and he can inhabit bodies and live and die and live and die and live and die again and keep being reincarnated over and over and over with his full consciousness intact if he wishes, so that he can keep guiding humanity. It's unclear from the tablets what his final decision on that is, but we get to see what the halls are, what he can do, and that his responsibility, at the very least, is to bring the light of knowledge back to mankind. So this is why so many early religions associate him with the god of knowledge. The ancient Egyptians did. The ancient Greeks had him as Hermes. It's exactly the same god. So he manifests all over the world right around that time period. That mythology gave me a lot of rich stuff to draw from. Now I've codified what I'm working with. The final week of the novel is going to be pretty easy, I imagine. I sound a little bit beleaguered in the couple of recorded segments where you're seeing my screen, but I'm pretty optimistic that it will be finished next week. I don't have anything big to define. Now I get to write all the big fight scenes, and those are always really fun. I've set all the set pieces for the first 2/3 of the book, and now I get to blow everything up. So that should be a lot of fun. Anyway, let's jump into the next segment. Okay, as you can see, we are looking at the updated progress on the novel. Most of the Road of Trials is written. Today is Friday, May 30th. So there'll be a later update in the video we'll see in a few minutes that show my progress from next week. And we'll see how much further that I get. I have not written my words yet today, so I finished most of the editing. There's one more chapter to do. I'll be done with that in the next 15-20 minutes, and then I've got to write these 3 chapters probably today, and then next week I'm going to plow through as much of this as I can. And you'll also notice the plot marker, which was down here at the end of the Road of Trials in the last video, I believe, is now up to the Take and Pay. So I have figured out all of the Road of Trials. I've figured out a Meet the Goddess I'm very happy with, and a Take and Pay that I'm very happy with that will work for the story. And I just got to finish resolving the end of this Take a Pay, and then I'm into the Return. So the Return's still not written at all. We have nothing here. But by the time I get to Meet the Goddess and to finish the Road of Trials, I will take a breath, and then I'll do all this plotting here, and this will expand into however many chapters are necessary to solve the rest of the plot problems before the end of the book. I am amazed at how much time I had to spend figuring out science, figuring out archaeological sites and how to access them, and what my characters would have to go through, figuring what puzzles would be inside once they got inside. So now we're actually under the pyramids. Well, what do they find? Yeah, I've got to make it convincing and believable, and work on actual traps and puzzles and things that I think would fit what the ancestors of the ancient Egyptians might have come up with. So there's a lot of creation, a lot more than if I sat down to write military science fiction. It'd be interesting to contrast this with, say, the 21-day novel challenge back in 2016 that launched the channel. That's military sci-fi. I didn't have to slow down at all. It was all super easy. I could just drop placeholders in, and then I came back at the end and I cleaned it up a little bit. With this one, I have to take a lot more care, and it is definitely a lot more difficult to get it right. Anyway, that's the end of the segment. The next segment, we'll see how much progress I made. Okay, as you can see, we are a few days later. Today is Thursday, June 5th, and I've made as much progress as I'm likely to make today. It's 3 o'clock. I might do a little more, but I doubt it. And you can see it looks quite a bit different. I did finish the Road to Trials. Yay! Got through the hardest part of the book. I finished the Meet the Goddess. Yay! And so I'm now into the Take and Pay. But I still have to write the Return. And I need some hard plotting to finish it up, but I have placeholder chapters for every major scene, so I know exactly how the flow is going to go. I just have to define some specifics, which will just take me a couple of days. Probably the end of today, maybe tomorrow, that should be done. And I'll keep writing during that time as well and adding chapters. So there's no way this takes more than a week to finish. Wow, it took 4 weeks. I thought it was going to be done in 2 to 3. Gosh, it's going to be 5? I don't know. I'll count it up when we're done, and we can see exactly how long this took. But This is one of the hardest books I've ever had to write, which is really funny to say because it's so short. It's only like 60,000 words. But all of the plotting that I ran into, which I talked a little bit about in the intro, just so many things I needed to get right, where you can't present a ruin and the details about that ruin and like how they're going to get inside the ruin and be wrong, because if you are, you're going to get butchered in your reviews. So I really had to research that stuff and get it right. Anyway, that's about where I'm at in the novel. Things are going extraordinarily well. It's just about finished. I'll be searching for beta readers shortly for books 1 and 2. I'll be able to finish 1 and go right into 2. And I will keep you posted. I also got the first draft of the cover, so I will have that to show in the final video as well. And then we're off to the races, and we'll see how this does in the store. I think it's amusing and it is fun in an archaeological sense. If you like Indiana Jones, if you like the idea of ancient cultures and there's stuff being out there that we don't know about or that's older than us as a species, you'll like it. Anyway, I do need to get back to the writing, so I will see you guys next week.